Paltrocast. Well, Natasha, for me, it is good afternoon. You're an hour back, I think, on Central, right?
Yes. Yep. I'm in Chicago right now.
So good morning. How's your day going aside from doing press?
Good. Yeah. I mean, it's been a good morning. I'm having coffee. I work from my desk where you see me right now. So it's pretty chill.
Well, are you ready for compliments or are you maxed out for the day?
Go for it. I can always start my day with compliments.
Before I go there, is it cool to call you NPH or is that just the
Yeah.
media? Okay.
Yeah. And NPH is what a lot of comedians call me.
You're the authentic NPH, we'll put it that way, right?
I'm the her version.
Well,
Obviously,
obviously I cut you off and I'm very rude.
Oh no,
Continue.
that's okay. No worries. No, I was going to say obviously Neil Patrick Harris is like the Mecca MPH, but I'm fine with being discovered on accident because of him, so I'll take it.
Well, we were connected because of the OFTV folks, because you are appearing on a special there, not your only TV credit. Now, how long did you have to keep it a secret that you were going to be on the OFTV? I can't speak today on their program.
We didn't have to keep it a secret at all because we had to announce, as part of our working together, we all were announcing, the filming of it. So it was, something we've had to be pretty vocal about. I think the team at OnlyFans has done a really good job of wanting to get other types of creators on their platform, and they've done a really good job of supporting comedians being a part of that.
Mhm.
So I think they wanted us to be as loud as possible.
A lot of Chicago comics on the upcoming slate. Did you know most of the people that you shared the billing with?
I knew everyone. Yep. And I know a lot of the other comics that are recording in other cities as well. So big brotherhood out there.
You're originally from Wisconsin. How do you feel about being thought of as a Chicago comic?
Well, I mean, I've never, I'm kind of one of those location agnostic people. Like I started my career in Chicago, but I lived in LA for the last 11 years, and then moved back to Chicago early last year. But I still go between the two cities, but I don't really consider myself like a certain city comic. I really love a number of scenes. And in the pandemic, a lot of people moved scenes and switched. And, it's kind of, in my opinion, the city is more of what it offers as far as shows and opportunities rather than the comics actually being defined by that scene. Does that make sense?
It does. The low rent way that I was going with that is I used to go to Summerfest in Milwaukee a lot, and you'd always
Mm-hmm.
hear these arguments and nicknames, which I don't have to say, between the Wisconsin people and the Chicago people or the Illinois
Mm-hmm.
people. And I
Yeah.
never knew if there was self-loathing anytime one of the people went between the two territories.
Right. Well, you hope it wouldn't be that way, but I mean, in LA, there was a little bit of that with New York, but it was soft. It wasn't, evil or anything like that. It's not like sports. I think for most of us comics, the majority of us just want to get along and support each other's craft. Once you get to a certain level, when you're newer, there's a bunch of mess to sort out. But
Yeah.
for me being back in Chicago, like I'm a big advocate of like, hey, some of the best comedians in the nation are here and we can't sleep on this city. That's why I say I don't want to define those people by this city because they could easily go to New York and crush, or they could go to LA and blow everybody on the lineup out of the water. So it's you know, everybody's got their place and you just if you're good, you're good.
Well, let's be honest, without Chicago, would there be Saturday Night Live?
Right?
Probably not. So comedy lives.
No.
So back to you here. I admire that you do the traditional stand-up kind of stuff, but at the same time, you have the social media going, and I love the domain that you have about the breakup registry. So it's an
Uh-huh.
interesting mix of old school and new school when it comes to your comedy. How much of that is I'm going to do this versus this is a good idea. This is what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. I used to, when I first moved to LA, especially, I would try I'm going to do this because this is what people want to see. And trust me, I had a lot of opportunities with studios and with networks, and they would request certain types of material. I'm mixed race. A lot of people were like, lean into that, you'll get booked
Lean into
more.
the tan material.
Right. But I just never wanted to feel disingenuous. And
Yeah.
I like to talk about things that feel authentic to my life from my perspective, not from a forced perspective. A lot of the kind of stuff that I've been wanting to write for years is going to be coming out in my next hour. So I consider this mini special like a teaser for that. But all in all, I'm a storyteller. Like I talk about my own life. It makes it really
Yeah.
hard to have similar material as other people. Because it's not done. I don't execute the information about my life in a way that's very replicable. So
No, I like that if we look at material of yours from X number of years ago, we hear about you being engaged, and then we look at, fast forward a couple of years and we hear what you went through with that as
yeah.
well. So in other words, your
Hmm.
stand-up specials are a time capsule. It does
Yes.
capture your life in a way that most other comics go, well, they like me for my one-liners. I'm going to do one-liners forever. And you listen to those one-liners and you go, wait, you were single in that joke, you're married in that joke, etc.
Right, right,
You're a
right,
very
right.
what you see is what you get kind of comic.
Yeah, I mean, I like to kind of have, like an album mentality, like the old school generation of having a full record you'd listen to. Like I kind of like that to be what my hours encapsulate. And if
Mhm.
you were to watch them in a row, you'd be like, okay, I see this time in her life. It's the same thing that people gravitate towards Taylor Swift for. I mean, not to say that I would be the Taylor Swift of comedy. It would be awesome if that were she's a billionaire.
Pros and cons,
But but I'm probably a couple of years behind her as far as where I'm at. But I love the journey of getting to put that art out when it makes sense and having people follow along on that story.
When some comics do that hour of stand-up, they write their hour. They go, well, I'm now going to do that hour for the next 2 years. And others go, I did the special. I'm retiring the material. Material's done. In your case, when you do the hour special, which one of those happens?
So the hour that I have out previously, I don't really touch any of that anymore. If I'm touring and I have a crowd that I think might like extra kind of grandma material or something like that, then I might pull like one or two back. But for the most part, I kind of let that live. In live performance, you have more leeway. Like if I'm headlining and I'm doing an hour or I'm doing an hour and 10, I might throw in some oldies that I know are just going to crush in a certain crowd. Um, I try to always be writing. That's a tough thing about writing in story form. So when I'm doing shorter sets, I'm kind of defined by that opening piece because it really explains a lot.
Right.
But then if you see me do more than like 10, 15 minutes, then you see all this other world unfold of uh, where the story can go from there. So
Hmm.
um, I always try to keep it really interesting for whoever is coming to see me too. I have some kind of religious fans that'll come to like every show when I'm in LA or every show when I'm in New York. So that'll force me to have to change up my sets a lot. So
Is
it's kind
there
of a blend.
is there a fan base nickname? Because we know about the Swifties, but do you
I
have
don't
those for
have
the
one
religious
yet.
fans?
No, I don't have an NPH fan base name yet. We should come up with one. I think NPH fans just doesn't work. It's just too clunky. We need a word.
Posh heads.
Tasha, there we go. Love
So
it.
what I see that some comics do, every time you see them, it's going to be fresh material, and then the last 5 minutes are the old bits of the classics. I've seen Dice Clay do that a number of times, where you have to sit through the old man Dice material, and then the nursery
Totally.
rhymes of the last 5 minutes. Is
Totally.
that like you, or we never know when the classics might pop up?
Um, I more kind of weave them in. I like to use the end, especially on tour, for like some fun kind of Q&A audience play because I don't really seek out crowd work. Like I'm definitely not a crowd work comedian. However, I do really have chops when I need them. So if something comes up or I need to veer my set away or somebody interrupts, like I like to play into that, of course, or if somebody, noticeably responds to a joke. So that's where I like to get play a little bit because it's fun for me to do more play at the end of a set when they already have gotten to know me and they like have curiosity about certain things about my life. Um, Sometimes I tour with my boyfriend. He's a comedian as well. And so we did a Florida tour recently and we did a Q&A together at the end. And that was actually really fun and unique. And the audience really got into it. So I just like to, we just kind of, depending on the tour, depending on who I'm with, play with it and see what works for that particular audience.
The way, and this is intended to be a compliment, the way I see your material and the way that you perform, the audience really feels like they know you. There is that connection element. Maybe they know you a little too well in their heads as a result of it, as opposed to say a one-liner comedian or somebody just goes, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
the other day I was at the store," that kind of comedian. So when I watch her stuff, I go, she eventually could be writing books and hosting a talk show and being that advice columnist kind of person who does it in a
Yeah.
fun way. Now, are you thinking, hey, I'm a comedian for life? That's insulting. I'm only doing stand up. Or do you eventually see yourself doing all sorts of things?
I think it's insulting to find anything insulting.
Insulting to find
I mean,
anything. Okay.
yeah, because like, why would I ever, yeah, I mean, you can always do comedy plus. Like, I'm always planning to do comedy. It's like my main art form. But yeah, I mean, I started a whole nother company and I'm the CEO and founder of that. So, I want to do a TEDx talk. I love to do public speaking in other capacities, especially because I'm already funny. Like it makes it easy to do public speaking. You're far more entertaining than most people that speak in public already. Um,
Yeah.
Books, exactly. There's a new TV series I'm working on surrounding a number of these concepts. And so, yeah, I mean, the possibilities are endless. I'm for I leave a lot to the universe and I hustle my way through life and I kind of let the other opportunities unfold as I go.
And that's another thing I find, that comics are either the most hustle oriented people or the laziest people on the planet. Obviously, you're one of the hustle ones. Were you like that at the
Totally.
beginning?
Yeah. Yeah, I've always been that way. Um, I think when I first started in Second City, I was, 20, about to turn 21. And I knew that I was, I knew that I was, I knew that I had something, I definitely had some standout auditions. I kept getting booked on things. Um, but some of my directors gave me some really good advice at that time. And it was more just like, you've you've got to hustle on the business side too, because nobody's going to make you an overnight success. It usually takes people about 15 years, and that was like 15 years ago. So, so I kind of had it in my head, well, this can take me a while. I better figure out how to build, other skill sets. And, I opened a production company. I learned how to direct. I learned how to do literally, you know, everything like you would do in a restaurant. I learned how to do all those things in film and television and in restaurants all at the same time. So I
And
could build my career and make money.
and before I ask my last question, when did you get to quit the restaurant scene? When did you stop working in restaurants?
Oh my gosh. The first time it was like 2015 and I thought I was out. And then I ended up getting sucked back into it in like 2017. I did events on the tail end of that first stint, which I actually really liked. So I like ran a rooftop and didn't have to bartend and serve as much anymore. I just kind of helped, you know, these amazing rooftop events. Um, so then I moved to another place that I helped out from 2017 to like late 2018. So it kept kind of sucking me back in. Once you're in hospitality, it can be pretty hard to leave. Um,
Yeah.
but I was still during all that time doing production and TV work and all that kind of stuff too that people don't talk about, the restaurant side, but it was actually some of the best years of my life and the best way to get on lists for anything in Los Angeles.
It makes you
It
think
was
that
the best.
how many people in the restaurant that you're in at any given time have a tight five that they could just do on a moment's notice, that if
Right?
the restaurant is just full of comics and producers, and if
Oh my
somebody
gosh.
goes, we need to turn this into a theater right now, we have a corporate client, they could just do that.
Literally everybody could. Yeah. And that's New York and LA and probably a lot of Chicago too, honestly. Um, you know, people are afraid to talk about that they work in service, but it is one of the best things that you can do. It's one of the best skill sets you can have, and it humbles the crap out of you. So you get onto a set and somebody's a little bit mean, you're not like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, you can handle people better.
Well, last question before I let you go. Obviously,
Yeah.
OnlyFans TV is the home of premium stand-up comedy these days, and we're going to see you on there, etc. But what's the next best thing on television? I'm looking for a good recommendation or two that you say, I like this. People should watch this.
Oh my gosh. I watch a lot of documentaries. I'm really fascinated by actual people's lives. I've been on a Suits tear lately, which I know is not a new show, but it's just a
I
damn
did
well written
become
show.
new to everybody after everyone realized that Meghan Markle was on it. Didn't Suits just become this top 10 show out of nowhere?
It's got a resurgence because I watched it when it was new, when it was first out. It got a resurgence then, and then it got a resurgence when it was being clipped on TikTok. So this whole young generation is seeing all these clips on TikTok and is like, ooh, what is this show? I mean, which is brilliant of networks to do. Go get your shows rewatched and get that money from a new audience. So that I love the writing of that show. I think it's fast-paced, funny, dramatic, like all the mixes of stuff that I kind of like to write, honestly.
Mhm.
I what else have I been watching lately? I rewatched Inventing Anna recently. I thought that was so good. One of my favorite, it's not new, but it's a couple years old, Modern Love.
Hmm.
That kind of style of show, because it is from a columnist that was turned into anthology type series. And that's in the vein of something I like to write as well. I like to watch stuff that fits the genres that I like to write because I've been working on getting my writing muscles back up again. So
Well, those are good picks. Thank you for your time. Looking forward to whatever's to come, whether you're in front of the camera, behind the camera, etc. But it sounds like a lot of exciting stuff is brewing, and I guess just keep checking the Instagram to find out what is happening when it's happening.
yeah. And the Instagram's great. I try to put stuff on my website too, mphcomedy.com, but I'm really vocal on Instagram. So it's a great place to start.
Well, thank you very much, Approachable NPH, for what you do, and have a wonderful rest of the day in the meantime.
Thank you so much. You too.
Paltrocast.